Hey, I'm Dave Mustaine from Megadeth, and you're not, but you are watching Heavymetal.dk.
What we are witnessing is the decline of Western civilization, crushing our potential and piling it on. How will history portray us?
Well, I think if you look at bands for more than they are, then you tend to, you start to be a little bit prejudiced. You know, when you start looking at certain bands like, oh, they're so great, are you maybe skipping over some other bands because you don't know them? You know, I just discovered a band recently with the help of my friend Chris Adler called Mustache, and I very easily could have said I don't like the name.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's an
What a
obvious
great
question.
band. What a great band. So, yeah, for most bands, stuff like that is important. For me, I look at every band equally as it's an honor to be with another group and play with them. And what can you learn from them and what can you share? Because it's kind of like, for me, being a real troubadour, which is what I am, it's kind of like the old story we learned as kids, the story of Stone Soup. You know, and we're going into a city. We have, you know, we're coming there. You know, we play music, and how do we fit in? You know, this is what we bring in. Other people bring stuff. What can we learn? Well, we make friends with certain people. We entertain people. We have people who are from this area. You know, Dirk is Belgian, and that has nothing to do with being Danish, but you know he understands the European lifestyle more.
Sure.
And with Kiko being from South America, shit, if Ellefson would have just been African American, we would have had all our bases covered. No, just kidding. Just kidding.
Attack the family, attack the faith and dreams, attack the body, and the head will fall.
My inspirations were more along the guidelines of the new wave of British heavy metal and the British invasion. I was a little bit more inspired by, you know, there's a lot of great bands that are out right now. Fans look to, and a lot of young bands that are really great. For me, I always wanted to know what were their influences. You know, like with Van Halen. Everybody thinks that David Lee Roth was such a great frontman. Well, what was his influence? Well, it was Jim Dandy of Black Oak, Arkansas. And if you didn't know who Jim Dandy of Black Oak, Arkansas is, look it up. You'll appreciate it. The guy, it's like David Lee Roth is a clone of him. Except for you know, his voice, of course, but the black leather pants, real low, hip huggers, big giant belt buckle, no shirt, tan muscles, and you know, same thing. So for me, when I look at my influences, I try and go back in time. Jimmy Page is a huge influence, guitar-wise. Angus was a big guitar influence. So was his brother Malcolm, who, believe it or not, turns out I was probably more influenced by Malcolm than I was by Angus. I liked Angus's solos a lot, but his the rhythm of AC/DC was what did it for me, because there was a hook to it, very simplistic hook. And I think that's what's suffering with music nowadays. People are trying to be so fucking cerebral with their music. I had a guy that played music with us at one point came up to me and goes, hey, I've got a new riff, and I was listening to it and it was awful. And I said, what is it? And he said, well, it's Megadeth in Morse code. And I was like, God.
A lasting legacy, a ruin brought in haste. The enemy of truth is lying there in state.
Well, I don't know that I would ever admit to wanting to be groovy, although that's a cool word. I think that a lot of people, you know, when they set out to be in a band, they're really flexible. For me, I only had one thing. I wanted revenge after changing bands. That's all I wanted. I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that, you know, all the lies that was being spread around that I couldn't play guitar. Just to think how absolutely boneheaded you have to be to believe that I cannot play guitar. I definitely can play. Am I good? That's up to the listener. but just some of those things that people were saying was just crazy. And like you said, you know, it's about what was said. It was, you know, and we're all friends now. So, hey, yeah, there's two great bands now. It was difficult though, you know, and you know, it was totally unnecessary. But the beautiful thing about it is, you know, with the Big Four as it is, it's no longer how it was, and as it's kind of, the smoke is starting to clear and the dust is settling, Slayer's going to retire. I don't know what's up with Anthrax. I don't know what's up with Metallica, but I know we're ready to make another record, and we're still not going to take shit from anybody.
Another day, another manufacturing crisis, keeping the people distracted. There's no one playing by the rules anymore. How will history portray us?
I don't know. I don't know. It's 35 for us right now. But to me, I think we'll know when the time is right. I don't think that if you put an age on a band, I think that's when it starts to, you start to put unnecessary indicators on your career. Like, okay, well, what did he accomplish in 35 years? Well, not as much as the fucking Beatles did in 6, okay? So let's stop with the comparisons. No one can keep up with those guys. Come on, 100 million plus records in 6 years. That's just incomprehensible. And it makes you love the Beatles even more. And that's part of why I say go back to your influences. You know, for me, loving the Beatles as much as I did, anybody who's been influenced by the Beatles, you know, for example, this is crazy, you probably don't know these guys. If you do, I'm pretty safe to say probably not a lot of your viewers or readers or listeners or whatever are going to know this band. But one of my favorite easy listening bands is a band called Crowded House. And Crowded House sounds so heavily influenced by the Beatles. And I can only think, if it was me and somebody's saying, you know, you sound like you're influenced by one of the greatest pop bands in the world ever, I would say, thank you. You know, but we're not pop, we're metal.
But you've always had a sense of melody.
I've tried to. Well, you know, see, when I picture myself growing up as a kid doing air guitar, I wasn't going, you know.
That came later.
Yeah, you're singing out of tune. Okay, you're a little flat. It's funny when you see people that play a musical style and somebody else doesn't understand it, how they try and make that style seem worse and their particular style seem better. I don't think that there's any right or wrong way to make music. You know, I saw this movie a long time ago called The Gods Must Be Crazy, and it showed a plane. I'm probably wrong here, but it showed a plane flying across the desert somewhere, and a guy threw a Coke bottle out and hits this native guy on the head. Right? Have you seen this movie?
No.
I think it's called The Gods Must Be Crazy.
Okay.
So they show this guy, and they show a little bit about life in the desert, in the African desert, and you know how different we are. And showed the guy talking. He's like, and I'm thinking, how the hell do you understand that? You know, but it's another language form. So the same thing when we went to China recently. You know, Megadeth has broken so many barriers for thrash metal bands playing in China and Dubai and Israel and Turkey and Russia and Venezuela, all these places where you don't play, you know, and we go there and the people love us because we sing about what's in their heart. It's not necessarily what's on the minds of people, because minds can be infected, they can be changed, you can very easily be dissuaded and believe some really bad shit in music. You know, there's a lot of bands that sing and say stuff that I think is not cool as a parent. But, you know, for me as a parent too, I've got to remember that you know, if you really love your kids, love them through the difficult decisions too, you know, not just the easy ones. And I think that's why kids dig Megadeth and me as much as they do, because I try to be a really good big brother, a really good uncle kind of thing. You know, when anybody talks to me on our social feeds, my Gimme radio station, I chat with that every week with all of our other social sites that we use. I try and really be open about, you know, what's it like? What's my job like? What would I do? You know, as a parent, what would I do? Well, there's a lot of stuff that I would probably do that our fans' parents would do, but because it's their parents, they figure, fuck you. You're my dad, my mom, I'm not going to listen to you. But if I said, hey, you know what, it's kind of a cool thing for you to open the door for older people when they walk in, you know, that's kind of cool stuff. Or like if you have somebody that you know could really benefit from you saying, I forgive you, you know. There's an old Irish saying that if you carry a grudge, you have to dig 2 graves, because while you're planning somebody else's death, you're killing yourself, right? So for me, I've kind of looked at it in a totally different way the last maybe 10 years. I've started to change my outlook on life towards people too. You probably have noticed. I'm a little bit more focused on the music, and I'm not so focused on what people are saying about me or about Megadeth or anything like that. It's more about the music and being there to help the fans and doing the right shit, you know, when the fans need stuff, not saying, oh, hey, you know what, I'll be back later, because you know, I've stood out in the snow with wet hair signing autographs, and I do that because it's the right thing to do.
With nothing left to lose, and hate the sight of all the ones that do.
Well, there's only a few songs that I'm a little bit apprehensive to sing, and one of it isn't one of my lyrics, so I'm okay with that. It's Anarchy by the Sex Pistols, because it says I'm an Antichrist, because I'm not an Antichrist. You know, I don't honestly know anybody that's an Antichrist. So, and then the other song was The Conjuring, which we're going to be playing tonight, I think.
Okay.
You know, we haven't played that song in probably 18 years, I think, 19 years, and we're adding it back into the set. Unfortunately, we've been having some problems with the video we're creating to go along with the performance. But, you know, with the Judas Priest shows, they have so much stage stuff up there that they need for their songs to be portrayed properly with the Judas Priest legacy. You know, their live show is really a terrific show. I remember seeing them, God, maybe 25, 30 years ago, and watching Rob ride out on his motorcycle. You know, granted, it was, you know, it was pop. To me, what did I know? I was like, fuck, wow. You know.
It's maybe corny today, but
yeah.
Look cool.
It's cool that they had the motorcycle recording, you know. I imagine if somebody would have went out there and went like, ding, 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 ding. That would have been so fucked up, right? Note to self, if I ever pull a prank on Rob Halford, get a rice burner sound for his his motorcycle.
We'll cut that out,
no,
so
don't
it'll
do
be
that.
a surprise.
Yeah, probably shouldn't do that.
See a ruin run in haste. The enemy of truth is lying there in shady new agenda.
I strongly doubt it. I would do it. I think the other two bands would do it, but there's one person that's holding it up for everybody. You know, so you got to ask the right person. You know, I have nothing to fear. I have nothing to lose. You know, we're all supposed to be friends now, so. I think that if the fans are first and foremost, then you know what? Let's go. Let's go.
Depraved mind of failing us on purpose. to country sanitize. It's soap, it's for the masses.
It didn't matter where I lived.
No.
It didn't matter where I lived. I think, it's, of course, that mentality that I had, with the, being a little surf punk and listening to hard rock, and there wasn't really a thrash at the time. I think probably the thrashiest thing I had was Motorhead. I had some Budgie, and I had some, let's see, what else did I have? I know I had Maiden, and the funny thing is at that time, American people didn't call Maiden thrash.
No.
They were new wave of British heavy metal, yeah. And I remember when we had one of the last shows I played with Metallica, I remember Steve came to come watch us play, and I was actually excited to see him. It's the first time I ever, was interested in meeting a celebrity. Because up until that point, it was kind of like, I didn't care.
Gas open change, the new normal, or just more of the same.
Well, how do I go back one more than Eddie Van Halen? What influenced Edward Van Halen?
Hendrix.
Huh?
Hendrix?
No. Classical.
Yeah.
He was a classically trained guitar player growing up as a kid. So I looked at some of the really great players, Vivaldi, Paganini, Chopin, Bach, Wagner. Although not all of their movements or their pieces is stuff that I like. Vivaldi has the Four Seasons. Two of them I like. The other two, they're a bit long for me. And while I can totally appreciate the songs, I've grown up in a kind of pop radio mentality, so it's a 4-minute song. Get the pay dirt. Where's the hook? So when you have a song that's a little bit longer than 4 minutes, for me, I tend to kind of lose the plot.